Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Sumaiya, and I run a company called SA Fashion Law, which provides fashion law services to South Africa. Just to give you a brief background history, I've always been fascinated with fashion as a little child, going to fashion shows or taking part in them. And growing up, I wanted to be in the industry, but my grandfather was a lawyer, so that was the route that I had to take. So I've worked in the legal industry for 8 years before deciding that nope, I wanted to explore the fashion industry as well and what it had to offer in terms of law. So, as well as going into it in a legal advisory capacity, I also threw myself into numerous projects, which were fashion trend forecasting, editing, writing, modeling at some point, and fashion merchandising, marketing, all of that, which led me to Cape Town and working for the Cape Town Fashion Council. And working there, running their seminars and workshops, I met a lot of designers and fashion industry insiders who told me or explained a lot of wrongs that were going on in the industry, and designers kept getting ripped off and they kept wanting legal advice. So I decided to launch the company in 2015, and it's still going strong. I'm also an admitted advocate of South Africa, and I have a lot of clients that are artists, photographers, models, designers, all sorts of people that work within the fashion value chain. So today I'm going to be talking about the need for laws and regulations within the fashion industry. So let's get into the presentation. I'm going to share my screen with you. So let's head right into it. The need for laws and regulations in the fashion industry. The topics of discussion today: intellectual property law for fashion brands, photographers and the protection of models, issues which are luxury brands and counterfeits, and emerging trends relating to technology. Intellectual property law for fashion brands. The global fashion industry is a $1 trillion industry that keeps on growing. Last year saw the industry generating a staggering amount of $3 trillion in revenue. So that's 3,000 billion US dollars in global annual revenues before the pandemic hit. You would think that the COVID situation would slow it down, but quite the opposite actually. The epidemic has caused a paradigm shift, making virtual our new reality. And in 2021 is set to accelerate industry trends, shifting shopping to digital platforms. The fashion business employs millions of workers in the creative, marketing, sales, and manufacturing capacities worldwide. Nonetheless, compared to other forms of artistic expression, such as literature, music, art, and films, fashion designs are left with limited IP rights and protection. Many countries are reluctant to address the issue of protecting fashion designs beyond the traditional enforcement mechanisms. Many critics argue that current IP laws sufficiently protect fashion and luxury brands, or that fashion designs are not art and therefore do not require similar protection. However, these arguments do not take into account the pressures that the fast fashion and counterfeit business models place on fashion designers and companies to remain innovative and relevant. So let's delve into copyright law. When we think about fashion designs, one would first think about copyright protection, since this appears to be the most efficient form of IP protection for sketches, samples, and patterns. However, the ambiguities within copyright laws often limit the protection of these designs. In South Africa, each case is judged on its own merits, which is fair. Even internationally, fast fashion retailers who take more than inspiration from the high street or high-end designers often defend their production and sale of emulated designs, which that is not fair. For example, Forever 21 has been sued over 50 times by several different designers and has never actually lost a case, instead resolving lawsuits in out-of-court settlements. In 2017, the retailer was also involved in 3 of the most significant fashion lawsuits of the year with Adidas and Gucci, but it still did not deter them from producing and selling its copies of fashion brands' products. They may change a detail here or a hemline there, but largely their business model is based on what's trending. And the trendsetters are often the ones who get offended by their lack of originality, turning to copyright laws, which can be rather vague at times. Trademarks. And when we're talking about trademark laws, we know that it serves as a source identifier. It protects consumers from marketplace confusion and deception. Since trademarks do not protect the product as a whole, but rather the logo or branding affixed to the product, consequently, the emerging and established brands are further tasked with developing a unique product or signature style specific to their brand, which consumers can identify easily. Otherwise, imitators will replicate the entire design besides the trademark. Trademarks are of paramount importance within the luxury market, providing the most and often only protection against counterfeits, particularly where infringers take advantage of the brand's reputation and goodwill. Design rights. To address copying of designs more fully, some countries, including South Africa, are leading the way by adopting a new type of protection, sometimes simply referred to as design rights or the design law. In an effort to address the shortcomings of copyright and trademark laws, design rights are becoming increasingly popular in the fashion world. They are used to protect the functional or aesthetic aspect of designs. For instance, hardware on a handbag can be protected using a registered design. While design rights are increasing in popularity in fashion houses, obtaining a design right can be a lengthy process, often resulting in the registered design issuing after copies have flooded the market. If it were a speedier process, however, an injunction could be filed and damage controlled accordingly. And lastly, we talk about patents in this aspect, which is the most effective protection a design can get. As we know that patent law has a very strict criteria, and design items rarely fall within the scope of its protection. However, when it does, the story often has a happy ending. My favorite example is the story of Sarah Blakely, the lady that invented Spanx. And I'm sure we all know Spanx, which is the undergarments that ladies wear on the red carpet, often to hide the lumps and bumps that women are self-conscious about. The story of Sarah Blakely came about when she had an event to go to and she couldn't find something to wear under her white outfit that would cover or hide these lumps and bumps. So she cut off the feet of her pantyhose and patented that technology. She developed it to such an extent and filed a patent throughout the world, and she has been named as Forbes' first youngest female self-made billionaire. And that's obviously before naming Kylie Jenner in this debacle, which is also controversial. But the story of Sarah Blakely is such a success story of how patent laws actually would protect designers. Obviously, it needs to fall under the invention criteria, etc. But it is one of the most effective ways that we can protect designers in the sphere of fashion. Next, let's talk about photographers and the protection of models. In South Africa, there are very few laws that pertain directly to photography. Most laws have to be interpreted to see how they impact on photography. Where South African law particularly differs from international law in the scope of copyright law is where commissioned photographs are owned by the person or entity that commissions such photographs, which is often the client. This means freelance photographers then have no rights to their work. This is a contentious issue which fortunately can be circumvented by mutual agreement, even in the form of a verbal agreement. The Act allows for negotiation of these default terms, and consequently, any agreement negotiated falls under the scope of contract law, which can then override copyright law in that respect. Fashion houses and retailers have the same end goal in mind: to create and make a profit. However, in some cases, behind a fashion show and during the conception of a collection, there is an artistic vision that the fashion designer wants to express. In order to convey this artistic vision, a specific type of model is cast, one that, according to the designer, is essential to the vision. The model thus becomes an integral part of the artistic process. However, the modeling world itself is affected by major issues, such as misleading casting calls, invasive backstage photography. In some cases, pictures taken of models while they are changing backstage at runway shows end up on pornographic websites, non-consented Photoshop in photos, discrimination related to color and race, human trafficking networks, underage models that go to castings and jobs without a guardian, and opaque accounting practices by some of the modeling agencies. Often in South Africa, models only get paid 3 to 6 months after the shoot. When thinking about these concerns, we look at the model as a human being, and consequently, we evoke some of the most basic fundamental human rights which appear in several constitutions throughout the world, including South Africa. Those rights are the right to physical and psychological integrity, prohibition of discrimination, the right to be a child, prohibition of a human being's exploitation, or the right for each person to control the use of his or her own image. These rights must be monitored and enforced in order to protect the integrity of models. However, some public entities are not able to track down all types of abuse. For example, moral or sexual harassment, as well as discrimination, are often difficult to prove, leaving the model vulnerable to predators within the industry. Although labor laws provide mechanisms to protect models, labor law is also not conceived to take into account the aspects of the modeling industry, such as the modeling agency's need for transparent accounting practices. Thus, it is imperative to create more non-profit labor organizations so as to protect the privacy of models, to protect models from discrimination, from vague accounting practices from some modeling agencies, to prevent any violation of their human rights or rights of image. In this way, the industry can be regulated and have a more streamlined approach in improving the respect of rights for the models. Moving on to luxury brands and counterfeits. Before the change of the fashion landscape, a luxury brand used to spend millions of dollars on its marketing campaigns, such as a 4-page spread in Vogue magazine, to appeal to the higher-end consumer. Then came the meteoric rise of social media and its billions of daily digital discussions, many involving global luxury brands, and forced those companies to reassess how they do business. That includes finding new ways to extend their presence beyond the traditional customer base in order to reach a new generation of consumers that have grown up online. Yet, just like in the offline world, some luxury brands have embraced social media and other digital activities with greater enthusiasm than others. This change has been particularly astute for luxury brands such as Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and Chanel. Born decades before social media, these companies have cultivated an image of exclusivity as part of their marketing strategy, portraying a lifestyle that is often out of reach for most people. In response to the online shift, analysts say that many brands have had to expand their digital footprint, strategically partnering with celebrities and social media influencers to present an image that is more popular in order to stay relevant. One of the most well-known fashion houses, Christian Dior, joined forces with popular music superstar Rihanna for the Secret Garden campaign. Reason? Yes, she has a unique sense of style, but also her social media following is 4 times as large as the fashion labels. Another famous brand, Calvin Klein, who is world-renowned, also signed a deal with the Kardashians, tapping into their collective audience, which is over 20 times as large as that of the brand. The strategy, engaging with both core consumers and the broader digital audience, luxury brands have capitalized on the marketing potential offered by social media and by creating a smooth shopping experience to successfully leverage e-commerce, they continue to dominate the fashion industry. This also opens them up to another blatant attack, which is counterfeits. The counterfeit industry dumps millions of fake products, including exact replicas bearing registered trademarks, into the streets and into consumers' homes. The industry is estimated to generate more than $400 billion annually. Fashion companies and designers register their brand names as trademarks to deter counterfeiting. However, it does not stop these occurrences. For those in the luxury market, it is imperative to prioritize trademark registration in countries where the brand is or imminently will be manufactured or sold. While certain jurisdictions do recognize common law rights, registration provides the most effective protection, as having an already registered trademark means there is no battle who owns the trademark rights. Filing a trademark early may also prevent trademark squatting, which is also an issue in some countries. While these filing strategies are essential for combating the counterfeit business, it is only half the battle facing most popular brands today. As opposed to counterfeit sales and manufacturing, fast fashion retailers pose a different set of problems. Fast fashion serves as hubs bursting with copycat designs that are readily available to the public at substantially lower prices than its original counterpart. Not only has e-commerce attributed to this, but research has shown that some e-commerce fast fashion retailers present an astounding 700 new styles per week. This not only poses a problem for the luxury brands or popular design houses, but for the environment itself, where clothing is seen as disposable. This feeds into the ecosystem of the injustices within the fashion value chain, such as the issues related to manufacturing, for example, child labor and slave wages in many countries, not to mention landfills, where clothing is not correctly disposed of and wreaks havoc on the Earth's surface. These are just some of the issues related to the fast fashion industry. But the good news is that because of the rise of social media, consumers are becoming more eco-conscious in their choices, and that trend is spreading rapidly, forcing not just fast fashion brands, but also luxury companies to make better choices in the production and manufacturing areas of their businesses. It has not reached an ideal level as yet, but it's certainly moving in the right direction. Lastly, we look at emerging trends in technology. The rise of technology is especially prevalent in the fashion industry, with consumers spending more time online, especially at the start of the lockdown period in most countries. Due to the rapid global expansion of social media and e-commerce platforms such as Amazon, brands are increasingly active in multiple markets. Virtual shopping and social media present ever-changing trends and styles to consumers at a faster pace than ever before, requiring fashion houses to accelerate the process from design to production to delivery. Shopping app fever is set to spread to every retail area, so it's time to catch up. Instagram, TikTok, and influencers are not to be underestimated in the rise of e-commerce, as shoppers tend to seek out user-generated content along the customer journey before completing a purchase. These platforms have the addiction factor, which keeps users coming back for more. Consumers will also not wait around if retailers don't provide a seamless service. Indeed, studies have shown that millennials and Gen Z switch between media platforms at an average of 27 times per hour. Brands are leveling up by supporting this service through social media content, but there is an added expectation for a seamless journey from an app or website to having the final product in hand. With consumers spending 89% of their time on media through mobile apps, it's no longer something that can be ignored, especially since the outbreak of the COVID pandemic. Now more than ever, consumers are turning to online shopping as a means of distraction and escapism, and brands are jumping on board to cater to their every need and desire. Technological innovations within the fashion industry and its resulting legal implications cannot be underestimated, as digitization of this magnitude is unprecedented, and it's certainly fascinating to watch the new normal unfold. That's it from me. I would like to thank you for joining me in this presentation. These are my contact details, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or queries on fashion law within South Africa or globally. I would be happy to have a chat to you. And I would like to thank you for joining me in this talk. And if you have any questions, you are welcome to contact me. Bye for now.